Hello, I'm Rex Carter, the Associate Programmer of Narrative Shorts for Bend Film. And I am here with, let me get everybody's name here, Ben Lawrence and Savannah and Taylor and Roland and Sophia. I'm going to go around and just in order of who's on my screen first. So Sophia, your film, I'm a Vampire. I made it my mission at the beginning of this year's entries to try and not include too many COVID films. That was like my goal. It's like, I figure people won't want to watch them by the time we're out of this. That's what was my thought process. So I was going to have this really high bar on COVID films. And then yours was the first one I watched.
No.
I was like, I love it. So yours takes it from a very unique point of the kind of the eyes of a child. And that's like the most successful aspect of it is this childish naivete and wonderment. So what was it? Talk to me about like how you first thought of it and got into that mode of seeing the world through a child's eyes.
Okay, so I wrote this film during the pandemic. Obviously, I was stuck in my house, like, behind closed doors, not going out, hearing a bunch of news that I didn't know what to pay attention to and what not to pay attention to. There were some times where, at first it was kind of funny at the beginning because like the toilet paper issue, like where, you went to the grocery store and there were no toilet paper and stuff like that. I was like, this is crazy. But then things started getting serious, right? So, I thought about this idea through the eyes of a child. Like, if I was driving myself crazy, like I was going crazy, literally. I thought, like, what happens if a kid doesn't know what's going on and what happens in their brain? If their parents like hide the pandemic from them, right? Because sometimes, as parents, like, I have friends and, nephews and all that. Sometimes you want to protect them and you think that the best thing is like hiding the truth, right? So that's how I started thinking of this idea of a kid passing through, this moment in life where everybody's locked in door behind, like inside their home, and what would she be thinking of like if nobody tells her what's going on. So be in a kid's imagination, they're very naive and innocent, and that's
Yeah.
kind of like where I got the idea from, right? I just love kids' imaginations, and also I think that it's a really sensitive subject because everybody's going through this pandemic, and it's and since it's a dark comedy, like I think that we can get away with it through a child's imagination because it's more innocent and it's not, we're not making fun of it or anything. We're just, talking about a
Yeah.
kid's imagination. Yeah.
And I loved how you carried it like visually, like the whole film visually also feels like from a child's imagination. It just works on that entire level. And it's so enjoyable. And the actress is really good. Um, is it hard to work with a child actor?
I normally, I always end up writing stories about kids. I think my childhood, like something, I don't know why, but I'm always writing about childhood memories and things. I'm a child at heart. Um, and this girl, she's a daughter of a friend of mine, and I started inviting her over to some of my sets because she was interested in film, just to like take a look. She's never acted before, and then when we decided to shoot this film, I called her over, and this is her first film,
Wow.
and she's amazing. I really think that she's gonna be a great actress. She, after she got another role in a film independent short film as well, so she's doing great. I'm
Excellent.
happy that we found her. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Roland, um, again, I was trying not to do too many COVID films, and then we picked yours as well. But yours is kind of interesting. As I was rewatching it, I wanted to ask you about the aspect of its social commentary, because that's kind of what I find most interesting. So you've got kind of a simple premise, but then as it kind of wanders through the middle, it's I feel like it's trying to say more. And I was wondering if that was the intent at the beginning, or if you stumbled into that, or talk to me about kind of that social commentary aspect.
No, it wasn't intentional at all. I think people just read into it a lot, honestly.
Oh, I'm putting too much into it.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad different people see it a different way. No, the point of the film was honestly just to show how downtown Portland had transformed since the COVID outbreak and since the Black Lives Matter protests. And the city is completely different, especially downtown. And I wanted to show that. I figured this was a time in history where Portland might not look the same again. And for the most part, I think I'm right. Almost all the sculptures and almost all the graffiti and the artwork you see in the movie is now gone. So I felt it was important to capture that. And perhaps in the back of my mind, there's always social commentary going on. You can't really shut it off. But the point honestly was, hey, look, free production value. I can make a zombie movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice as when I was rewatching it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that statue's gone now. And yeah.
The Nightmare Elk statue was stolen by Proud Boys. The Abraham Lincoln statue was torn down by protesters. All that wonderful graffiti work on the Apple store of George Floyd and everyone else has now since been washed over. So everything is gone that you see in that movie for the most part.
Oh, well, then I'm really glad you've got a nice document of it.
Yeah.
And how long was the makeup and the prosthetics to do?
Zach Smith got up at 4 a.m. Took him about 2 hours to put on the makeup himself. He also was the zombie actor. And he didn't take it off until about 5. So wow. he didn't eat lunch. So props to him.
So was that like one day of shooting?
That was one day of shooting. We shot outside for 2 hours. But that's all we could do because the smoke, as you probably remember, Rex, from all those fires last year, covered the entire city, and we could only shoot outside for 2 hours before we started getting headaches because there was no oxygen in the air.
Oh, so you really did shoot on those days?
Oh, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
That's not special effects. That's all real smoke.
We couldn't leave the house.
Oh, no, not many people could. I had a huge Zoom meeting with my casting crew the night before saying, look, obviously, safety first. However, if we went outside and shot, it's going to look amazing, and it does.
Oh, I'm so glad I learned that about that film. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Roland. Moving on to Savannah and Taylor with the Tale of the Daughter. I was rewatching that again this morning too, and I wanted to ask you about sort of you've stuck a lot into it. You think it's going to be this film, and then it turns into this film, and then it turns into this film. Was there an intentional design of playing with formats and genres, or did that come about as you were editing, or how did that work out?
Oh, that's a good question. It just sort of came about naturally, I think, because it was such a collaborative effort with our producing partners, Chris and Jazzy. And, the two of us, we have our own set of tastes and ideas, and they have their own as well. And we kind of found this like beautiful molding of those two things. There's certain scenes that are softer and have a more dramatic tone to them. And then some really silly scenes outside, like opening the film, just being like our character being silly.
Yeah.
And it kind of became this thing that we just really found what we wanted to do for the rest of our career as filmmakers. Like we loved that genre bending thing, and it also opened up our play with tone, which became something just a really great playground, like to just shift your tone back and forth and try to keep people on their toes. It was really. But
What impressed me was each tone works on its own. Like there was some very dramatic, emotional moments with the mom discovering the daughter in the bed, and it works as a serious drama at that point.
Mhm.
And then you've got these crazy comedy moments, and you're heightening the music and you're cutting it out, and you're just tonally. But they all work individually, and I would have thought slamming them back and forth would not have worked, but you managed to do it really well.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
I think COVID, all the time of like developing the project, kind of made us greedy, and we're like, you know, how much can we put into this one project and just have fun with?
Yeah,
So-
what if it's our last project? We have to make 3 different movies. You know?
so was it like that in the script and the concept, or did you find it more in the editing room?
Yeah, I mean, it was always in the script, and as we had a lot of time, right? We had a lot of time to study and watch and rewatch our favorite directors' films and really evaluate how they are handling their tone and find a way to do it on our own. I mean, I do think the slowness of the drama, that time we took in those scenes, did kind of surprise me personally at times. Because the comedy was always there, the drama was always there in the script, but I was surprised at how it worked, how slow we were able to go and still keep our pacing. And that was something that I was really happy to have found, that you can take those moments seriously and still go to the funny parts at the end. I think when we were studying, I forget his name, I wish I knew his name, but this dark comedy editor said that was his favorite genre, because just whenever the audience thinks they're about to cry, you make them laugh. And that was just something that we kept holding on to as we were making the film, was that sentence.
And a big shout out to our editor. He was constantly like, wouldn't it be funny if we just cut here? Or like, always looking for like edgy ways to just like have fun with it outside of what, we captured on set. So I think that was important as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is edited very nicely. Yes, I love the way.
Kurt Pinheiro, shout out. He's also our producing partner. He's downstairs. He lives here.
And kudos to the lead actress. I thought she was great as well.
She lives here too. She's downstairs.
Thank you. And moving now to Ben with Freezer Burn. Similarly to what we just talked about, your film also kind of has this tonal slam. So I wanted to talk to you about it back to back with what I just mentioned to them. Yours is kind of more abrupt, like it's got a beginning that's just slamming in your face, and then it settles into something more quieter after that. Was that always the intention from the beginning, or how did you come across that?
Yeah, I think similarly, it's definitely a product of my collaboration with Sonia, who co-wrote the movie. We end of the way that we made it, we shot a version of one half of it with no budget and used that to pitch to producers to make a fuller version that then led to cascading changes in the first version. So it definitely evolved a lot along the way. But I think I like to think of it as two different drafts in those two acts of what a breakup can look like. And if the first version is sort of the, as you say, in your face, kind of chaotic, campy, crazy, worst case scenario in some ways, the second act is a chance for both of the characters to do it with more empathy and to listen to one another and actually hear some truth in a different way that they couldn't take in the first scene, which I think is true to life.
Yeah, because I love the 3 fingers, 3 truths thing. That was sweet.
Yeah.
And the performances in that scene are really, really good.
Thank you.
And then there's the cat performance.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy good, like in a weird way.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, there's a cat and then there's a person playing a cat. for those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, and I'm so excited to see everyone else's movies. These sound great. But in the first scene, my character sees this cat, and Sonia, my partner in the movie, she sees the cat as a person. So we had to double their performances so that we could cross cut between the two, which meant shooting the cat first and then trying to match what had happened with our actor. The cat had never, acted before, but I think did a great job. And the actor is incredible. His name is Julius Powell, and he's an incredible up and coming drag queen in New York, and I recommend that everyone follow him. And yeah, like you say, I think that the performance is incredible. The whole, yeah, he did a great job. We were very happy.
Yeah, and the editing between real cat and human cat, just nicely edited in
Thank
that
you.
section.
Yeah, we really weren't sure how it was going to turn out. We were kind of going with the chaos of it all, but it worked out. It worked out better than we expected. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. And let's see, moving on. Did we get Annalise here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So your film, Inheritance. I wrote down a question. So the origin of the premise, it's such a kind of a haunting, lingering kind of tone and feel. And the premise is sort of, I don't know, talk to me about the origin of it a little bit, because it's a film that I keep thinking about over and over again, and was not sure where I want to land with it.
Yeah, it's definitely, thank you everyone for having me. I echo, I'm very excited to see all your films as well. Yeah, I think that, yes, the tone and the vibe is spooky. And I think that was like the intention for it to kind of linger after you finish watching it. The original concept or original like seed of the film was, I was sort of thinking about how I spend a lot of time in these like rural settings in New England and Vermont and Maine, and like wanting to camp and kind of like commune with nature and in the ways that I was used to as a kid, but feeling like very visible and very like watched and surveyed. So the original idea was like, how cool would it be if there was a campsite that you can't see, like an invisible campsite that you kind of like go around this corner and you disappear when you get in there. So that was like the first little story, but then I sort of took that and I knew that I wanted it to end that way, like have this invisibility portion was like very important to me, because to talk about how we're seen and how we can control our image, but then like wove in the house and the setting and the family after. And the house in the film is my mom and brother's house in Vermont. And like, I love that house and like, just really wanted it to be a character. Yeah, and then it kind of like, all these little seeds kind of came together. So that's the origin story.
So that word invisibility, it's the word I had written down the most in my notes, and just the social commentary of that, and the fears that you describe, and the idea of invisibility, and how that's what I kept thinking about but that's not really a good answer.
It's a really it's a tough ending in that sense, because the spirits that are haunting this land and the house don't do any like physical harm to the family. They're very much like sort of this like psychological harm.
That is the harm, yes.
Yeah, that's constant surveillance that like the dad has been experiencing for decades and the brother for a few years. So like the answer to that is like, they can't look at us anymore. However we accomplish that, like, do we banish them? Do we move? And some people have been like, why did they move? And it's like, I don't know. I thought about myself and I was like, would I really move? Maybe I would, but I don't know if I would like be like, what would the story be if I was like, you know what, I had to move because there were these ghosts that like none of you can see that I am, you know, have been like staring at me. But I think I thought about the ending and I really struggled with it, like the implications of the family doing so much to like sort of appease, like everything they're doing is like fitting within the spirit's framework. They're like, let's do something that will kind of trick them, but they're sort of they're intentionally like making themselves turn into ghosts almost. But the way that I thought about it was like that like certain types of the psychological harm of being constantly like judged, and obviously the allegory is there around like racism, and also like just the way that we are always constantly like surveying each other through social media, like all of that. But I feel like I was really interested in the fact that there are just so many modes of survival, and that it's really hard to critique somebody when they're being persecuted, critique them around how they decide to escape. And kind of wanted the story to have this gray area where it's like, they needed to do something, and this was the only thing they could do. But that like sort of within choosing different modes of survival, it's sort of like a stepping point where, like, I imagine for the family that, you know, they have this momentary peace and then they're finally able to like relax and build more things. So this being kind of a snapshot in their lives. I kind of like did a little roundy little path around that thing.
It's a very interesting film because of the ending and the answers that the questions that it asks. That's what kept me thinking about it. I would love to be able to circle around and ask another round of questions, but we are running out of time here at the end. If we were all together, I would be asking questions of you all weekend long, because each film has more to dig into, I feel. But thank you for joining us. This is really great, and I love this block of shorts. It's entertaining and thought-provoking in so many ways. All of your films.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.